howdy, welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandy Broadwell, and today we're going to talk about my deepest, darkest shame. We're going to talk about writing shame. I just want to kind of talk through why I'm feeling this way, what it's about, and what it really means for me and my writing in the future. So the reason I feel writing shame right now is because I have decided I made a very difficult decision to put the novel that I've been working on the shelf, the proverbial imaginary shelf, I guess. And I'm really disappointed in myself for this decision because this book is the book of my heart. It's the book that I want to see published and I want to see on people's shelves and I want to share with the world. And as soon as I told my husband that I had come to this decision, he said exactly what I expected him to say, which was, "Oh no, don't do that. I've really been wanting to read your book." And yeah, that's exactly how I think everyone that I tell that this was my decision will say. And so that obviously contributes to the shame that I already feel about it. I am not giving up on writing, but I do think that this is not the time for me to be working on this book. And why is that? The book that I have been attempting to write on and off for several years now is an epic historical portal fantasy that mashes together myths from a lot of different cultures, but with a feminist twist and tackles really truly epic, good versus evil, dark lord fun stuff that I love reading about, and I wish this story existed. So I decided to write it for myself. However, that is a really, really ambitious mashup of projects, not just epic fantasy, which is a big type of thing to tackle on its own, but also historical fantasy, trying to be historically accurate with a time period and a place and historical figures that really existed, and the technology and the language at the time, and also the portal aspect of it all, and just the storyline itself is not a simple story. So I think I potentially bit off more than I can chew, and that hurts me to say because I have always been someone who excelled at writing. I am a good writer. All of my teachers told me I was a good writer. I got A's on all of my assignments. I got distinguished on my portfolio. Those sorts of things from back when I was a school kid. And I've always known that I love writing and I'm good at it. So to attempt to write a novel and to not be able to complete it feels like a huge failure. But the truth is that I have been stuck in this story for a very long time, and it has completely killed my desire to write. I picked it up again in January. It was one of my New Year's resolutions to get back into the story and start writing again. And doing so, which I did successfully, but doing so just made me feel like I was grinding. And I do 100% believe that sometimes writing is going to feel like a grind, but this is how I felt about the story for such a long time. And it's part of what has kept me from working on it, is because I just don't think I am currently skilled enough to pull off the story that I want to tell. And I think that's an okay realization to have. It hurts and it sucks. And again, I feel a lot of shame about it, specifically because I know that the vast majority of people who attempt to write a novel never complete it. And I don't want to be one of those people. I want to actually have written a novel. I want to write a novel. I want to write multiple novels. I would love to be a published author and to have people read my stories. That has always been my dream ever since I was a little girl. But if the joy of writing is being killed by a project that feels too unwieldy, then what is the point, right? The point should be the joy of writing, not the specific story. And I think I have been too hung up on not switching tracks because this is the one and only story that I need to tell. I have lots of stories that I would like to tell, and I think starting out with a story that isn't quite as complicated, that isn't quite as epic, would be a better place for me to start. It feels weird to even think about like starting over. But I've had lots of different ideas for stories and plot threads and world building ideas for years that have just kind of been fizzling around on the back burner, and I would love to play with some of those ideas again, and I want the thought of writing to feel more like play again and less like work, because this is not a job. This is a hobby. This will probably only ever be a hobby. I love the idea, like I said, of publishing a novel and being a novelist, being an author out in the world that people know, but the reality of that happening is really small. The reality is that I will most likely only ever be a hobby writer, and so if it's not a hobby that I am enjoying, then what is even the point? So I think scaling back a little bit and starting on something new and fresh that's going to reinvigorate my love for this hobby again is the most important thing that I could be doing right now. But I still feel gross about it. It makes me feel like a talentless schmuck. You know, maybe I am just a bad writer. Maybe I don't have what it takes to be an author. And you know, maybe that's true. But I don't think that that's true. I think that I do have the drive to do this, and I think that I have the framework in place. I just maybe don't have the chops yet. And I think the only way to develop those chops is to write more. And the only way I'm going to write more is if I'm enjoying writing again. So basically this update is just a ramble and a rant. But I would love to know in the comments if you have ever had to shelve a writing project. Like, did you also feel this way, or writing is hard. It's like so funny because it's like any skill. You don't just like pick up piano one day and you're suddenly like playing concerto number 4, or you don't just like start figure skating and suddenly you're in the Olympics. Like you can't jump from like not writing into like publishing a best-selling novel, I don't think. So there's no reason for me to have these like huge expectations on myself, but I do. So yeah, this is just me like processing out loud kind of what I've been going through. I'm embarrassed to admit that I am like stopping the project I've been working on again on and off for years, but that is the move that I need to make at this moment, and I'm not shelving it permanently. I 100% plan to and hope to get back to this project someday in the future and to actually finish this story, not just to prove to myself that I can, but because again, it is a story that I love and I care deeply about and want to make exist in the world. So right now I am having a lot of fun. I have already moved on, and I'm keeping up the momentum that I built in January, and I'm trying to write every day before work, or at least most days, and that's been going really well. And right now I'm just basically putting all of these ideas that have only lived in my head for years now on paper. They're on my computer now, but just like typing out all of those things and just trying to like pull on plot threads that I have and actually turn them into story ideas, and also like fleshing out all of the world building and setting and magic system things that I have going on. And I'm really excited because this world that I have in my head, I have so many different stories that I can tell within this sort of sandbox playground, and I'm really excited to start that. Again, I'm not to that point yet where I'm actually ready to start plotting a novel, but I am sort of piecing together, I'm sort of creating the puzzle pieces, I guess, in order to create the puzzle and be able to put those pieces together. So that's what I've been working on for the last week or so, I guess. So I'm just really looking forward to see what I'm going to be writing a few months from now, you know, after all of this has kind of congealed into something that I'm excited to get up and write every morning. So that's it. That's my confession, my great shame to share. Yeah, I'd love to know if you have any writing shame to share, or if writing's not your thing. I think we all have shame about various things in our lives for silly or not silly reasons. So yeah, if you relate to this at all, I'd love to not feel alone in the comments section. So anyway, this was obviously not bookish in the traditional sense today as far as my reading, but I haven't talked about my writing in a really long time on this channel, so I figured it was time for an update. That's the update. Thanks so much for tuning in and hanging out for a little bit today. As always, please be kind, read more books, and hit the subscribe button down below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you again soon.